So things are going to get pretty interesting now going into 2025, and it's going to start happening in the first 2 weeks. Now, what will be taking place is CES. That's in the first half of January. So again, we're just a few weeks out. It's going to happen in Las Vegas, and what you're going to see are a bunch of the tech giants come together and show us all kinds of hardware that probably won't be consumer ready for years, if ever. But there will be some things being shown here that at least give a concept of stuff that is being planned already. All right. And some of that comes from Valve and Microsoft. And we're going to talk about an event you want to keep an eye on here today and how this could all work to shape Microsoft's big plan and their big strategy for next generation. So if you guys enjoy this video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. We're going to start today with this video's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Lost in Cold. Celebrate 16 years of Dead Space with Make Us Whole, the history of Dead Space. This is the latest book from the video game design studio Lost in Cold. This marks the start of their brand new line of cult classics, exploring the finer, in-depth details of beloved games. The 272-page book is the definitive, comprehensive book on the history of Dead Space. Explore the franchise like never before with new and candid interviews with the franchise's creators, hands-on insight into pre-release prototypes, all paired with masterful illustrations by Jonathan LaMancha. Available as a standard edition and a limited pre-order exclusive signed edition featuring a signed bookplate by its author and the writer-producer of the entire Dead Space franchise, Chuck Beaver. The pre-order campaign closes December 31st, so act now. Also, while you're over there, check out the Enhanced Collection. I'm a big fan of Tetris Effect Connected, and this caught my eye immediately. The Sound and Visions Enhanced at 10 collections is the ultimate celebration of the groundbreaking, acclaimed work of Enhance. The Enhanced Soundworks Collection box set is limited to just 505 copies, curing the legacy of Res Infinite, Luminous Remastered, Tetris Effect Connected, and Humanity. The Enhance at 10 box set is limited to just 1,010 copies and gives us a behind-the-scenes look with a 300-page history book, soundtrack CD, art prints, and a laser-etched glass sculpture of the Level 1 Res player form. The pre-orders for Enhanced campaign closes December 10th and are both very limited time exclusive box sets. Again, act now. Check the link in the description below and use code SPAWNW to save 5% site-wide. Thanks to Lost in Cold for sponsoring today's video. Now this week, we did have an email that went out. And essentially what it was Lenovo inviting different media outlets to an event they'll be holding at CES. I believe it's going to happen like a couple of days before the event officially kicks off, for everyone to swarm Las Vegas and talk to all kinds of different companies and the press to get all kinds of information on, again, very, very expensive TVs or electronics and that kind of stuff. But we will have Lenovo showing up with what appears to be a new handheld system. This was shared by The Verge, just saying Valve be Lenovo's special guest at just announced gaming handheld event. Now, this appears to be where they're going to announce their Lenovo Legion Go S, I believe is what it's currently being referred to as, and most likely will be the official title for it. And the Go S is supposed to be a cheaper variant of their Legion Go line so far, right? So they have one that has basically like Joy-Cons on the sides, and you can break those off, and they act like a mouse even, but it is a more expensive system. It's when it dropped, the handheld was like $700, $800. It's dropped in price somewhat since then, but it's still more expensive than what I think this will be, which would be like maybe $400. I think that's a good sweet spot for them, like $399. Well, at this event, they will, of course, have AMD there, which is the Lenovo Legion Cross AMD, the future of gaming handhelds. It's going to feature a special guest, that being Valve's SteamOS and Steam Deck co-designer Pierre-Luc Grafis. And what we're seeing here most likely is AMD showing up with their Z2 chip. I don't think it's going to be the Z2 Extreme, because I think the Legion Go S would use the cheaper variant overall. Like, you'll have a more premium top-of-the-line handheld from Lenovo, and that would use the Extreme chipset. This would be one that would more or less fall in line with the Z1 that was shown off for like the cheaper ROG Ally. So not as capable as the Extreme, but I think the Z2 would probably be, I assume, on par with what we see right now with the Z1 Extreme, and will probably also pull less power. So that all, again, plays into the idea of this being just a more budget-oriented device, and all this happening January 7th. Now, along with that, we're also going to see Jason Ronald, who I believe has their name or their title changed. So Microsoft VP of Xbox Gaming Device and Ecosystem. and he's now being introduced as Microsoft's VP of Next Generation. Now, he's going to be a guest there as well, and remember, Lenovo, the Legion Go, used Windows, so you would expect Jason Ronald to be there to talk about how they're improving Windows for handhelds, because it certainly needs it. Look, Windows is a very robust operating system. It's expected to work on a number of different devices, not just gaming handhelds. It has to be used on like different servers set up in the office, all kinds of different use cases, but it's just not very good on the handheld. And I'd like to see them really improve that, which, of course, right now there's talks about them doing a handheld. It would inevitably have to get better if they are going to introduce one at a consumer level. So naturally, when we see Lenovo show up here with their Legion Go S, and it has what appears to be over here a Steam button, it appears Valve is going to introduce their first non-Steam or their non-Valve created Steam OS handheld. They're opening the OS up seemingly to third-party hardware manufacturers, and that, to me, if you're Microsoft, should be a bit of an alarm bell for you, because you're like, hold on. These companies have been using Windows because it's basically what was available for them. Now SteamOS is opening up. Well, that does work better for handhelds. This is sort of Valve, I think, branching out beyond what they have been, which is, I mean, just a marketplace that people are extremely loyal to. Epic desperately tries to get people to their platform by giving away free games constantly. I mean, I think it's got to be more than 100 easily, right? A couple hundred probably, that they've given away since the Epic Game Store's just introduction, and people still just prefer just use Steam. You have to buy the game there, or you get it for free on Epic Game Store. It's like, I'll stay on Steam. And it's a very, very good marketplace. I mean, really, it's application because of all the stuff that it does at this point. But everything with cloud saves, the ability even to remote play from it, there's a lot happening. And then the winter sale gets started, and you just pile up that backlog. Well, now you could see something like Lenovo introduce this handheld with SteamOS, one that is set up for handhelds. Would they potentially start moving away from Windows? So this would, I think, actually make things more difficult for Microsoft if their next-gen plan is indeed what many people are thinking. And in fact, if we look over here, this is over on Windows Central, and they really dove into a lot when it came to Microsoft, their plan, their strategy, what they've been going through, that they say they're the dilemma. And this is exclusive. Xbox console games will be the exception rather than the rule moving forward. And this is Microsoft, again, Satya Nadella saying they're redefining what it means to be an Xbox fan. There's a quote that was heard around the internet, it seemed, when he said it. Because it's like, hold on, what does that mean exactly? Redefining what it means to be an Xbox fan. Well, we can see this again over on the Windows Central article. I'll leave this link down below because there is a lot. It dove into a lot here. But this excerpt says that sources tell us that Microsoft is also working on a set of in-game APIs and user interface features called Project Rainway, which is some form of cross-platform Xbox guide menu. Microsoft has been inspired by the in-game Battle.net social feature seen in Hearthstone, Diablo 4, World of Warcraft, which lets you share and communicate cross-platform. This means that for games running on other platforms from Xbox, they will still have an Xbox flavor and in-game Xbox systems, maybe even cloud saves. Indiana Jones on Steam, for example, supports Xbox cloud saves. Diablo 4 keeps your progression no matter what platform you're on too. Microsoft wants to extend that to all of its games, and that's what Microsoft ultimately means with the marketing campaign, This is an Xbox. Every Xbox game itself will become an Xbox if this Rainway project reaches fruition. Now, I think Microsoft clearly has the talent within the company, like the engineers, to make this a reality. I do. I question, I think many people do at this point, the marketing side lining up with the engineering side, because it always seems like they're not necessarily set up to go at the same time. So that This is an Xbox campaign, while I think it would have made a ton of sense if it was part of this big next generation presentation and showing, it would make sense then if all this is ready. All this stuff isn't ready. So that's why it's so weird. The Xbox console still feels very disconnected from the PC side, from the mobile side. The idea here is you have an API and this guide menu, this cross-platform, that makes everything feel more or less the same. Now, I don't know if it's going to feel exactly the same, because, sure, if you're on a stronger PC, You're going to just get a better looking experience, better running experience. If you're on mobile phones, you're probably running through the cloud, unless it's like a lower graphical game, and you can kind of run it on the phone. But either way, you'll probably get a lesser experience on a mobile phone that doesn't even have technically buttons or joysticks or anything. And then the console will be the convenience side. But you still pay for Xbox Live on that, whereas you don't on the other platforms. I guess technically to stream on the phone, you would use Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, but not Xbox Game Pass Standard. And you kind of see what I mean. There's a lot of fine print seemingly all over the place here, rather than everything sort of being under one umbrella. I also wonder about Microsoft's strategy when they've mentioned things like bringing Steam within Xbox's ecosystem. So maybe if you did have an Xbox, you could load Steam or even Epic Game Store, that was also mentioned, onto your platform, similar to how if you have a Windows-based PC, it's open, so yes, you can load those different platforms. I don't know how much that makes sense for Microsoft from their angle when it comes to their console, but it's also pretty clear the way that they've kind of talked about this. The Xbox console isn't like the be-all, end-all. It's not the center of the Xbox universe, and them redefining what it means to be an Xbox fan means to, yes, redefine how you see an Xbox, as in, it's not really a box anymore. It's more like, I don't say an idea, but like an ecosystem. Right? So sure, your phone could be an Xbox because you can pull your save data to it and you're playing an Xbox game. That's kind of the idea. Every game itself will become an Xbox, as they're outlining here. Will that work? That is a great question, because honestly, Microsoft keeps trying new things. They've done it with Game Pass. They're doing it with this exclusivity stuff for consoles going away, which has pretty much been the tried and true formula for all these different game platforms at this point to try to get people to buy into their ecosystem. But Microsoft wants to meet people where they are rather than try to pull them away from what they know. So if anything, Microsoft, if they make less systems, plastic boxes, sure, but systems, that cost a lot, but they still make the same money in terms of just gross revenue. Technically, they're making more money because they don't have to pour out as much money into just creating these systems and throwing them out there into the world. But it's definitely risky. I'm curious if they can pull this off, but first things first, they got to get Windows figured out for these handheld PCs, especially if they're making one themselves, before Steam and Valve show up and take over, because I think they're actually poised for that, not only with their Steam OS for their Steam Deck and Lenovo and maybe Asus, but also the home entertainment center, because it seems like they're preparing their own little Steam box, and if they get that out there and then all of a sudden these third parties look around and go, oh, we can just make a bunch of consoles with Steam OS. Yeah, let's do that. You might see Windows, I don't want to say lose like a bunch of market share, but at least some to Steam OS, more so than now when it comes to just gaming in general. But let me know what you guys think about all this down below with Microsoft's strategy, moving more and more away from the classic, I guess you could say the tried and true method of consoles, console exclusives, and sell you into the ecosystem that way, and instead pretty much going everywhere they can. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.